Okay, so I think we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to today's Garage Methodology Workshop, which is a part of a series of workshops we're running throughout the month of September. Thrilled to have so many faces join us today. I'm Kim James, manager at the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy. For those unfamiliar with us, we are one of three chambers operating under the entity Dubai Chambers. And what is it that we do? So essentially, we're in place to protect and support the private sector business community in Dubai. We work with everyone from early stage startups right up into large scale technology firms that are entering the market. We work to attract top talent, leading companies and new investment into the region, whilst also trying to provide a platform for businesses like those on the call today to grow in the Middle East. So one of our main initiatives that we're working on at the moment is the Create Apps in Dubai program, which was launched by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan back in March last year. It has a distinct purpose to support Dubai in becoming a global hub, specifically for mobile app innovation. And you'll see a snapshot on the screen now from last year's edition. So essentially today's session falls under that initiative, and we're going to very shortly, with Ben and the team, dive into garage methodology. The session is going to be highly practical, and we really hope that it does prepare you well for the soon to launch competition. So I think just before I hand the mic over, I will just briefly put the competition on everyone on the call's radar in case you would like to apply. So in a nutshell, the App Olympics is basically a test bed. So if you're looking to build a business in Dubai, or you already have a company and you're looking to digitalize it further, you can apply. So anyone that has a cool idea for a new mobile application that you think will work well in the city of Dubai, you can submit your application. And essentially, if you're chosen as one of our four winners, you'll receive an investment of 150,000 US dollars to build this idea. And there are four different categories you can apply under. And again, I won't go into too much details as everything is mentioned on our website, but just very briefly, we have a youth category, we have a dedicated category for most innovative, one for most impactful, and new, fresh for this year, we have a distinct category for gaming. So anyone that has a gamification idea can apply. So in terms of the timeline, and I know I'm jumping around the slides a little bit, but just for your understanding, the applications will open in just over 2 weeks on the 13th of October, and you'll have up to a month to apply. And the competition, it actually runs for 6 months. So it's not kind of the standard competition where you submit a registration, you don't hear for weeks and weeks, and then it's a yes or no at the end. During this period, we will be unlocking like over 100 learning modules if you want to upskill yourself on every topic you can name related to mobile app development. There'll also be a series of workshops similar to what we're running today that you can tap into, again, if you want to learn more on the subject. But ultimately, if you do make it through the final stages, this is where it starts to get really exciting. For example, in the final ceremony, we host this at the Museum of the Future in front of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, and it's almost like a giant Shark Tank event. So again, if you really are serious about building a company here, it's great exposure for you, and you'll be winning, you'll be judged by expert panels across the city. And yes, we'll basically be hand-holding your whole process to set up your company. Very, very briefly, so as I mentioned, this is the second cycle of the program. Last year, we received over 1,000 applications, and the applications came from over 60 countries. The reason I'm saying this is it's not a local competition. Like anybody around the world that has an interest in Dubai can apply. And we helped develop over 140 prototypes. So again, if you're going to come through the program, we will help you build this with our expert mentors. So again, like I won't spend any more time talking about the competition now because I don't want to distract from the session. But at the end of the webinar, we will mention a quick QR code so you can express your interest if you want to be part of it. So that's a wrap from my side. Actually, before we go into the session, we have a special guest with us today, a lady called Fatima. She was actually one of the winners from last year's competition, and we're really excited to have her with us. And I would love for Fatima just to share a few words about how she found the experience, because it's better to hear from the alumni than the government side. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Fatma Al-Shaali. I'm a digital transformation specialist, and in the last 3 years, I've developed many apps that are currently used by government entities. And I'm excited to share with you my app, Bariq. It's a marketplace designed to connect home-based businesses with customers looking for unique products. I started Bariq to help talented businesses owners reach more people and showcase their amazing work. And let me take you through my journey. Creating Bariq came with its challenges, like balancing time between the workshops and my full-time job. But I learned to prioritize my task and set realistic deadlines, ensuring that I remained focused and productive. The App Olympic workshops were a game changer for me. They provided great insights and mentorship that helped me refine my ideas. And as I reflect on my journey with Bariq, I would like to share some key takeaways and advice. First and foremost, I learned that commitment is key. There will always be challenges, whether it's technical or personal. But it's how we respond to those challenges that truly defines our path. Take failures as opportunities to learn and grow. To all the participants here, I encourage you to take full advantage of the workshops, mentorship program, and resources available to you. Believe in your vision and keep learning. Your ideas can make a real difference. So I want to conclude this with some Bariq progress. We are set to launch in December 2024. So feel free to scan the QR code and stay up to date with Bariq. And don't hesitate to reach out to me for any advice. Use the App Olympics community to connect and support each other. If you haven't signed up for the competition yet, I highly recommend it. Thank you all and good luck on your journey.
Great, thank you very much. I think we're going to switch across to my presentations. One sec. Can everyone see my screen? Great, well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. Today's session is we're going to look at our garage methodology, which is essentially a way of approaching design thinking in order to bring to bear the customer, the problem, etc., on the design of your future apps. So what will you learn today? Today, as I said, we're going to outline the garage methodology. You're also going to get a good idea of what the course will look like over the next couple of months. So both in terms of the activities you'll be doing with us. So we'll be doing training like on a weekly basis, but also to understand where you will be in the course at any particular time and what goals you'll be fulfilling. Also today, we're going to give you an introduction to how to define the market need for your potential future app. And also we'll be looking at how to identify, prioritize, and then research your assumptions, which is all going to be essential really for building, designing and building an app that can be successful in the marketplace. So to give a quick outline of the agenda today, we're going to talk through the course in a sec. We're going to do a little icebreaker to get everyone warmed up. And then I'm going to talk through an introduction to a tool that we're going to be using throughout this course, which is the app business canvas. And then we'll be talking a little bit about these market assumptions and how to understand your the problem you want to solve, the audience, the kind of the market size, and also look a little bit about how you kind of look elsewhere in the market to see what's available. We'll then have a quick break, and then we come back, we will look at how to research and validate your assumptions, and then we'll conclude with a short exercise and some homework for those of you that choose to apply. So first question we've got is, first thing we want to answer is why are we here? And I'm just going to pass over to my colleague Cass to just talk through a little bit about ourselves and what we do.
Great. Thanks, Ben, if you don't mind driving. Hi, my name's Cass. I think before we dive into the methods and everything else, we start with a quick question, which is, why are we ultimately here? You know, it's we're coming for different reasons, but ultimately it's to either expand our network, to build a viable business, or to develop ourselves personally as founders and creators. And most importantly, to make progress in turning those ideas, whatever stage they are, into something amazing and something the customers will ultimately pay you money for. So ultimately, we're down and we're here for growth. And if we look at the wider context, next slide, Ben, thanks. We're in the right place. So Dubai is one of the very few locations on the planet where I've experienced innovation being practiced and rewarded at every scale, whether that's at the government level, as Kim mentioned with Dubai Commerce, or even on the individual level. Everyone is here to do something different and to make a difference. And I think that's a very exciting place and time to be. Next slide, Ben. Thanks. What we as mentors and guides want to make sure is that this doesn't happen to you. So one of the top reasons startups fail is because there's no market need. You spend a lot of time and effort building something that actually no one is interested in or not willing to pay you money for. So we want to make sure, first and foremost, that we ensure you're not part of that 42% of failure. The rest can come as it does. But if we can get over that first hurdle, then we're in a good place. With that in mind, like I said, my name's Cass. I am head of experience of an agency, but I have worked with Ben on multiple occasions, actually guiding individual founders and startups to realizing problem solution fit and ultimately product market fit. And I'll let the others introduce themselves.
My name's Ben Luff. My background is in user experience and product strategy, really with the focus to helping young businesses and also corporates develop product ideas and then launch them on the market. Over the years, I've launched over 50 products and services onto the market, and I'm really excited to be here today to share some of our experience with you.
All right, thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm a head of ventures. So my entire background has been in entrepreneurship as a founder, as well as corporate entrepreneurship, working with big corporates such as Aldar in Abu Dhabi. My specialty is really looking at the holistic, let's say, founder journey, from whether it's for go-to-markets, acquisition of customers, to operational efficiencies. Thanks.
And hello, everyone. I am Selin, and I'm working as a lead experience designer in genealogy with this agency, and I also have worked as a design consultant before. I love working at the intersection of strategy, creativity, and technology. I'm helping our clients to grow with a human-centered approach and helping them to reinvent their businesses by design digitally. Nice to meet you.
Great. Thank you very much, Selin and Chris and Cass. In a minute, Cass will just talk through the introduction to the Garage methodology. But before we go there, I just want to talk a little bit about the course. If you guys choose to sign up what the course will look like. And essentially over October, well, starting today, September, but mainly through October and November, we'll be running a series of masterclasses to help guide you envisaging, designing, prototyping, and testing your app. But also, we'll be looking at your business plan and the underpinning business elements of your app, in order that when we get to the end, so for the week 10, you'll be in a position to be pitching for the final competition. And what this means in terms of the activities, so early on, we're going to be looking at helping you research your market and starting to write and refine your app business canvas. This then turns into kind of validating your app idea as you start to build and concept your mobile app. And then towards the end, you're going to be focusing in on kind of prototyping and testing. And then the last couple of weeks is really going to be focused in on getting the best possible pitch deck for your investment pitch.
Right, so Garage Method. We will be touching on Garage Method all the way throughout the course. Garage Method is a form of design thinking, and it covers quite a few activities that you would see in the larger design thinking. So I guess before we go into Garage, we will talk a little bit about what design thinking is. So yeah, cool. Next slide, Ben. Most people, if you have come from corporate, have probably seen a few walls like this. This isn't all of design thinking, and I think it gets a bad rap sometimes because everyone thinks you just need to put Post-it notes up on a wall and magic happens. This is but one part of it, which is the research phase, and Post-it notes are definitely used in this. But what it really is all around identifying the right thing to do, i.e. solving the right problem and executing it in the right way for the right audience. So if we wanted to kind of define design thinking, it's a practical set of activities, and there's a lot of them, but actually you will tend to only use a handful of them to get the job done. Importantly, it prioritizes the human. So whether that's the customer or whoever that target audience you are designing the solution for, it makes you put them right front and center of what you're trying to do. Because a lot of the time you can get a little bit caught up with the technology side or the product side and completely forget that you're designing something for a customer. What it also does is help you challenge existing assumptions. So we go through day to day just assuming that things have always been the way they are, but that's not necessarily the case. Innovation is the definition of challenging what has been and creating what will be, and hopefully faster, cheaper. Okay, next one. If you've come from consulting or come from business, design thinking is generally distilled down into this kind of double diamond approach. It's well known. It's a universal process to allow you to uncover a challenge, take you through a few steps, and come out with an outcome that makes sense. And it's always used when the outcome is unknown or there's a high chance of failure. So it allows you to pivot and change direction and use all the right tools to make sure that what you're getting out of this is valuable and you're really addressing the problem. Next. Okay. The Garage Method is part of that. And the Garage Method was originally created actually for companies to behave more like startups, because one thing companies don't do very well is run fast and be decisive and focus, because they've always got a lot of things happening. So Garage Method was originally designed for large companies to kind of act like startups. So to a certain extent, as a startup or as an individual that's coming on this journey, you have an advantage of speed and the ability to pivot very quickly. Next slide, please. And this is eventually how startups beat the big guys or get acquired by them, because there's two things happening in tandem. One is a startup is trying to get scale and get customers quicker than a large company that already has the customers, has the ability to innovate. So there's always this kind of classic friction between the new guys that are trying to come in, and the existing guys who are already there and trying to keep or maintain market share. Next. So Garage will take you through these three kind of big sections, and we will cover those in the course. So your gather phase is all about your research and your insights, going out and talking to customers, understanding what problems to be solved are. Generate will all be about your prototyping, and I think we've got 2 or 3 specific sessions on the prototyping where we will be able to take you through a design process so you have something that you can put in front of a prospect and talk to that customer about the solution your app is offering. Grow happens once you've got some early traction, or you've found that customers are actually interested in knowing more or wanting to interact with your product. Then it's about how you launch that into market and scale it for success.
Right. And this is an intro, obviously, to the garage thinking. We're going to be deep diving into some of the kind of early gathering activities today. And as the course unfolds, we'll then be getting into a lot more of the kind of the concepting and the designing in future weeks. But first, let's have a quick icebreaker just to get everyone warmed up. What we've got here is we're using an app called Menti. And what we would like you to do is to use your mobile phone to scan the QR and basically, there's going to be a couple of voting activities that you'll be asked. So if everyone could scan that and then answer the first, there's like 3 questions. And if you're having any problems, just post onto the chat. So yes, the first task is to is asking you to just show us your personality and interest with just emojis. So there will be on the screen, you'll be able to select some emojis to describe who you are.
If you need to see the QR code again, we can always go back. So let us know in the chat.
Okay, good. We're getting some. I'm liking the unicorn and the umbrella there. Brilliant.
Unicorn's the right mindset.
Exactly. And you'll also see there are some other questions there as well. If you won $100 million, what would you have to spend the money? And yeah, it's kind of so neck and neck between building apps and spending on a house. I think that's fair. You'll be getting investment for building your apps anyway, so you can spend the money on your house.
Doesn't say if it's invest in your startup or a startup. So.
It could be, yeah, exactly. And then just to get a sense of where everyone's from. Great. Okay, so invest in a startup is now winning.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see those emojis. Okay, so we're starting to get like a nice kind of word map of word cloud. So we've got innovator, creative, art, ninja, I like that, music, travels, and humanitarian. That's very good. Yeah, so kind of a mixture of the kind of social impact and creative innovation. And some art there as well. Good. Great. And okay, now building apps is now in the lead, followed by investment startup. And we have people from all over. Great. So we've got people from kind of North America, kind of in the Caribbean as well, or just off of South America, Nordic countries, obviously in this region here in UAE in the Middle East, and also kind of maybe, is that Saudi down there?
Yeah, this could be.
And a few people in kind of either Southern Europe or Northern Africa, I think.
Excellent.
Great. And we've got someone, I guess that's Russia. I'm assuming, it depends, it could be Russia or it could be one of the states below. Great. Well, thanks a lot. That's given us a nice kind of outline of who you guys are, what you're interested in, and a little bit about your personality. Oh, we've got some more here. Startup, futuristic, music as well. Great. Great. Well, thanks a lot for that. That's a good starting point. And now you're warmed up, we can jump into the training. So let's introduce now what is the App Business Canvas. This is going to be a tool that you're going to be using. You're going to use this to guide the creation of your business idea, and also which will then be underpinning your app development. And the app business model, you can see there are kind of 11 different sections here, covering things like what is the initial problem you're looking to solve, what is the target audience and the kind of the size of the market opportunity, through to what your solution will be, and what your kind of competition and current solutions are there in the marketplace, and how you aim to kind of position or differentiate yourself against your competitors. And then you can see along the bottom, we've got things like your go-to-market plan, your revenue and costs, your commercial model, and also your operational plans. So what resources and activities and partnerships you're going to need to get this to market. And essentially, these kind of fall into three key areas. So you've got the market, you've got your product, and then we've got the kind of commercials and the operations. On these two areas before we start building the apps. So the next question we ask is, whereabouts are you in your journey? So I've talked about kind of three key areas, like defining market, defining your solution, and defining your commercial business model. We're going to ask you to scan your QR code again, and we've got three questions to ask you. So if you would scan it again, and we can then see whereabouts you guys are, and just get a sense from between you and your peers how far through your journeys you are. And I know that some of you took part in the competition last year as well, so you might be refining an existing idea or even starting a new idea. So I think will be quite interesting to see. We'll probably have a mix of people in this process. So I'm going to scan through here. And this is the QR code to scan. So as I mentioned, the first question is about how confident you are you've identified a real market need. The second one is how confident that your app solution will successfully address this market need. And then finally, how confident are you in your commercial and operational model to create a successful business?
Oh, Ben, I've got a comment saying that the mentee brings it back to the icebreaker. Please post the QR code.
Okay. So Selin, maybe they might need to skip through those original questions, I think. Sorry.
Probably it started from beginning. Can you please just skip those slides if you are on icebreaker exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Apologies, yes, we're using the same thing. So just skip past your old questions and then you'll get to the new questions. And it's perfectly okay if you're not confident at all in either the market or your product or your commercial model. This is exactly what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks, is helping you develop that. So it might be that you've got an idea for a solution, but maybe you're less confident on like how much of a market need there is, or vice versa. And maybe a number of you won't have your commercial models in place yet. So I can understand if that's going to be there's going to be more people that only have a little bit. So it's still a good mix so far.
It's good that no one's put not at all. Otherwise,
Yes.
that would be an issue.
Yes, although actually I can imagine that if you've just started out, you don't necessarily have that kind of confidence in where the revenue is coming from, especially if it's more of a kind of a social impact app, for example.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm just going to start summarizing these. So yes, it's looking like we've got quite a lot of confidence. It's kind of maybe 50-50 almost between people who are very confident and people who are a little bit confident and they've actually identified a real market need. And then I think people are, let's see the numbers there. So yeah, then people are kind of maybe more moderately, I think they've got more actually, if we could add the two together, actually, people are probably a little bit more confident that they've got an app solution that will address a market need. And then I think, yes, as we expected, the commercial and operational model is typically something that comes a little bit later. So that makes sense that people are kind of maybe a little bit confident. It's good that again, no one's not at all, because as Cass was saying, it's yeah, I think everyone's given it a little bit of thought. Great. Okay, that's a really good sense, and I think hopefully this gives you a sense as well of like where everyone else is at as well. So you're not in this alone. So if you haven't, if you're maybe a little bit unconfident about the commercial model, you're in the same boat as most people here. Great. Okay. So let me go to Cass. I'll pass you over to you. We're going to look at defining problems.
Sure. Okay. So I don't need to remind you guys that finding the right problem to solve is probably the key starting point of any founder or entrepreneur's journey. But what I always think is quite interesting is to understand that the thing that you're building, and if you can go to the next slide, Ben, is not necessarily the end. It's the means by which a customer actually fulfills their desired outcome. And it's your job as the entrepreneur or the founder to meet that outcome with your product or service. So I always put this quote in here where people don't want to buy a drill. Ultimately, they buy it because they actually want to have a hole to, do something with their house or to put up a picture. So your role is to understand and identify gaps or pain points that the customer is currently experiencing. What is that desired outcome that they're trying to achieve, and what are those pain points or challenges that they meet along the way of defining or getting to that outcome, right? So remember, even though we're going to be focusing a lot about the design and creation of your app and the user experience and making sure that app works is really key, it's not ultimately about what that app represents, but more what it offers the user and allows them to then achieve in their life. Okay, so next one. It's really important to also acknowledge that not all problems are necessarily obvious or tangible, because customers are not just buying the products, they're buying the solutions to the problems. And if you see on the screen, look, there's two basic credit cards here. Well, one's a debit card and one's a credit card. Functionally, they're the same. They allow me to have access to money or pay for things. But actually, if you think in a less rational or intangible way, there's a big difference between getting out a debit card and getting out an American Express black card, because that says something. It ties itself more to status. So it's really important to understand, even if you feel that you're building a product that looks on the surface quite similar, you can always leverage different things and intangible needs to differentiate what you're bringing into the market. And next slide. So not all problems are created equal and not all problems are worth solving. So this is usually like a very simple framework that we use, which is understanding the anatomy of a problem. So how often does that problem happen in terms of frequency? And when that problem happens, how severe is it? How much does it impact that target customer? So if you've got something that doesn't happen a lot and it isn't actually much of an impact, I would say it's probably worth avoiding that, because is a customer willing to even acknowledge that that's an issue worth them exploring or trying to solve? On the other hand, if you have something that happens a lot, you know, and when it does impact, it's a big deal for the customer, that's always a ripe place to start exploring. Okay, next. And with all your products and all your ideas, it's always worth thinking big. So you may have found that you've managed to solve a problem for yourself. Your next best thing to do is then to understand who else can this product solve a problem for, and always think about the wider context. I mean, we are in the UAE, and the App Olympics is happening in the UAE. So there's also a big push in terms of the wider social impact as well of your product in this particular market. So what could that product offer that would be positive to the UAE at large?
Okay, great. Okay, so yes, that's a little bit about the problem, and I think further along in the exercise as well, we can dive into a bit more into defining the problem. The next thing we want to cover today is about finding customers. And although it's tempting to think, okay, well, who's going to use my app? Well, everyone's going to want to use my app. It's a great app. It's got it solves a very kind of common problem. That kind of mindset is not going to really work in terms of being able to find then target in on the people that have the kind of the biggest need for your product. I think really when we're starting to think about who your customers are, we need to think about prioritizing because obviously you're going to have finite resources to be able to do marketing, and also when you're actually developing the app, you'll really want to kind of focus in on features that can really hit the certain parts of your customer segment. Trying to build something for everyone is going to really help no one. So how do we prioritize? So firstly, we could be looking at the segment size. So how many of this specific customer group are there out there? Another point to think about is their ability to pay. So actually, this is like a kind of a revenue generating application. The ability to pay is going to be a crucial part, and the ability and willingness to pay for your services. And the third kind of tenet to look at is how easy is it going to be able to reach your customers. And really, although what we're looking at here is a kind of like a typical life cycle of a product. This could be 5 years, it could be 50 years. I mean, however good your product is going to be, it's going to have a life cycle. It's going to end at a certain point. But let's say, for the sake of argument, it's like got a 10-year life cycle. Where should you be focusing? Although by all means, look at who's going to be potentially customers kind of further down the line. Really what we need to be looking at is your early adopters, and those people we're calling kind of innovators. Those are the kind of people that are really just willing to try new stuff. They're the ones that you always see with the kind of the latest gadgets, etc. And really we want to be focusing our efforts for the design and the early marketing on this first section here. So what makes an early adopter customer? It's useful to think about this in 3 ways. First of all, do they have the problem that you're looking to solve? So if they don't actually have that problem, it's going to be very hard to kind of sell them your app. Secondly is, are they aware they have the problem? So it might be that your customers have a kind of a deep problem to solve, but if they're not aware of it, you're going to have to educate them before you can sell your app to them. And this is going to be expensive and it's going to be time consuming. So we'd really cut those people out who aren't aware they've got the problem. And the third factor is, are these people actively seeking a solution. So this might mean they're actually paying for an alternative. It might be an alternative that you see as being substandard to the solution you're offering. Maybe you're kind of providing a 10x customer experience over what's out there currently. But it's useful to try and target those people that are already paying for these solutions, or who are just out there and kind of being vocal about the problems they're facing and the fact they've got a problem to solve and no one's yet solving it. So your customer is going to look like someone who's actively seeking solutions. And this may be, as I was mentioning before, asking friends. They might be asking on online forums. They might be doing a lot of kind of Google searches for finding out how to solve their problem, or alternatively looking for specific solutions. And as I mentioned, they may have purchased solutions in the past, but are just not satisfied with them. So question is how do you go about finding these people? Sorry. Okay, how do you go about finding these people? Well, first of all, let's talk a bit about the concept of a persona. So a persona is a semi-fictional character which basically accurately represents your target audience. And these are going to be really useful in defining who your customer is and then being able to communicate that with potential investors. It's also very useful for you to, as you're building your product or service, to have this kind of customer persona in mind as you're building it. If you are using yourself as the target audience, so you say, this is an app that's really useful for me, you've only really got one data point. So now you really need to go out and find a whole bunch of people exactly like you. So in terms of building up who these customers are, there's a kind of like a question of kind of empathizing with your future customers and really understanding not only what are their kind of key traits, so think about their background, their daily habits, the goals they have in their everyday lives, but also about the specific challenges and pain points they're facing, and also especially when it comes to kind of technology, what their kind of experience level is. Are they a beginner or kind of an expert in a particular field? And here is an example of a user persona. And as I mentioned, this is going to be really useful to build this picture of your early adopter customer, really looking at, as I mentioned, things like their pain points, what are the kind of key needs they have. Maybe you put a bit of detail around who they are kind of demographically. So kind of start to make assumptions about kind of what age group they're going to be, maybe even like what their job is, and a little bit about them. And this really puts a lot of flesh on the bones for like who you're aiming your product towards. And as I mentioned as well, it's going to really help for kind of communicating this to investors as well. When putting together these user personas, we're going to look at a little bit in a minute, like kind of doing some online research to really find out more about your customers. We found as well as designers that using like AI solutions as well can be a neat way to really kick this off. So start to describe who your customer is into, let's say, ChatGPT, and you will be able to get a whole load of again, assumptions about who they are and what that kind of person might be. And then once you've built this picture, you can then validate that by doing some kind of online testing afterwards and research afterwards. Okay, we will be picking up on user personas actually in the next module we'll be doing in a few weeks' time. So before we leave the customer group, I just want to talk a little bit about market sizing as well. Now, we're going to get into a lot more detail about this when we start looking at your commercial model and your business planning. But it's worth just mentioning at this point a little bit about like kind of sizing up an opportunity. Essentially, market sizing is asking yourself, how big is this ocean I'm swimming in? How much money is out there that I could potentially bring in using my mobile app? And essentially, there are a couple of strategies for kind of sizing your market. The first is kind of starting small and working out what you could realistically sell. So let's say we've put together a kind of a pricing model. Maybe you're selling a subscription. So how many of these subscriptions could you realistically sell, let's say, in a week, a month, a year? And work out what you can do now, and then work out if I put more money into, let's say, kind of marketing, or if I brought in a channel partner that I could open up a new customer base, how much could I then scale up that market? The other strategy, which you don't have to do just one or the other, you can do this in parallel, is to start big, really understand what is that total market value. So if you're, let's say you're selling coffees, for example, like what is the total population of coffee drinkers in your chosen market? It could be global, it could be within the Middle East. And then work out what the proportion of those customers is that you could realistically sell to, bearing in mind things like whereabouts you're setting up, whether it's going to be urban or not. If you're just doing it urban, then you have to bring the numbers down a little bit just to kind of cover cities. If the other thing is to consider is like, who are your competitors and the competition in this market? Would it be realistic to say you could take, let's say, a 2% or a 5% share of that market? We're mentioning this now. We will be spending another deep dive session further into the course where we'll look at some much more detailed examples and how you calculate this. But it's just worth bearing this in mind as you think about what is the market opportunity that's available to you. Okay, I'm going to pass you over to Cass and just talk a little bit about current solutions.
Yeah, so I think this follows on from the problem side. So of course, your solution is your flip side to the problem. If you go to the next slide, Ben. Thanks. So invariably, if your app is being created to solve a key issue for a customer, it's highly likely that customers are already aware of alternatives. So either they are using a competitor's product, or they are using something that you wouldn't even have thought about to solve the same problem, or they've actually built themselves workaround or little hacks to achieve the same outcome, but it may just be not a very efficient outcome or very time consuming, but they are trying to do something already, right? You also want to identify the market gaps. So if you're looking at the other competitors that you believe you're competing with regards to your product or service, that allows you to really calibrate what you're doing that's unique that the others have either overlooked or have not even been aware of. Okay? You can use the competitors to leverage learnings from as well. What are they doing that you can also emulate? And then what are the things they're not doing that you can actually spend some extra effort on to differentiate? Right, next one. So direct versus indirect competitors. This is really important. So there's a difference between competitors versus substitutes. Right. So with regards to a direct competitor, that would be an Uber or Careem. You know, they're offering very similar things with regards to the taxi side and actually the food delivery side, now I think of it. But a substitute could also be something that people aren't really aware of. So a bus will take you from A to B, but it also has its limitations. And it really comes down to what is really important for the customer. How is the customer judging your solution versus someone else's? Go to the next slide. So in this example, you know, there's quite a few ways to get from A to B, but depending on your customer type and what solution you're putting in there, these different factors really come into their own. So if I'm really just about speed, maybe I'm going to try and find the fastest mode of transport available to get from A to B. But if it's actually that I'm trying to solve a problem to get to somewhere in style, then maybe it's your Bugatti Veyron or it's your horse and carriage, depending on what your customer preferences are. And you can really make sure that you can bridge that gap between what's already out there and what you're going to put in front of those customers. Okay. So a lot of the time, you may not be wanting to compete directly with an incumbent, but come from the outside with a completely new idea that makes the customer really turn their heads and take your solution over others. Okay, next one. So I've heard this a lot personally, where we'll have founders that say that we don't have any competition because our solution is unique and innovative, and that's fine. It may be unique and innovative, but there is always competition. In fact, I was doing some work for a museum the other day, and one of the key quotes that we saw was that our competition isn't actually other museums, it's Netflix, because it's all about share of time. So even someone's sofa in their apartment is a competitor for that customer's time. So there's always going to be competition. And if you can't find it, you're either not looking hard enough or you're trying to approach a problem that's probably not worth solving.
Right. Thank you, Cass. And I think what we'll do now is take a short 5-minute break, and we'll be back maybe about maybe kind of like in 2 minutes past 1, and to pick up again. Well, let's say 5 past 1. 5 past 1, we'll pick up this again. Great. Great. Okay. Now I'm going to welcome everyone back. Hope you had let's have a good little break. And we're going to start back with talking a little bit. We've already talked about some of the assumptions you're making about your customers and the problem to be solved and what's out and they're on the market. What we want to look at now is how to validate those assumptions. So you may have like I may have ideas for every section, and hopefully over the next few weeks you're going to be putting a lot more into your app business canvas, and you might have kind of variations. You might have kind of questions you need answering in certain places, but essentially you've got a really full thing, and you think this is going to be my business idea. But the question you're asking is, and the questions we have is, will they work? So how do I know that my assumptions are correct? And when starting to question your assumptions, we showed you there's kind of 3 different kind of sections of kind of market, solution, and commercials. And you have some kind of key questions. So one of the questions is like, do people actually need this? Do they actually have this problem? Another question you might have is, can I actually create a product that people will want? Do I have the resources to be able to do that? Do I have the right design? And then thirdly is, can I create a sustainable and profitable business from this app? Now, these are what I like to call these are the uncomfortable questions that might keep you up at night, but they really need to be answered. And the good news is we can start answering them right now. So things like, am I targeting the right customers? Will this cost too much to run? Is this really what people want? And a crucial one as well is, am I missing any opportunities? Is the idea that I'm going down, is that the real solution, or is actually there's another problem that's kind of next to it that actually it's a much bigger opportunity? So the good news is that data is absolutely everywhere. In this day age, in this day and age, in 2024, you can find data about people and problems and solutions online through a variety of ways. So, for example, the kind of review data, I'm showing kind of 3 different reviews from like Amazon, from Google, and from let's see the last one. Oh, the App Store. So these allow you to find gaps in the market. If you've got like an idea about what your solution area should be, but actually really want to define the problem. It also helps you to define problems in customers' own words. So you may have a kind of an idea about what the problem is, but actually, how do other people describe it? Because that's going to be crucial. When you're trying to define the kind of features to fit with what they need, but also when it comes to kind of marketing your product, it's crucial you're thinking in the same way as your customers. And it also allows you to really kind of start to zoom in on who is your early customer. So whereabouts in the internet are people talking about this problem? Is it in certain forums? Those forums will have certain people that take part in that. So you'll start to get a sense of like your customer profile there as well. And as I mentioned, their reviews is one way, and I'm going to show you some examples in a minute of software we like to use to be able to really dig in and research the problem and your customer base. Another way is to analyze online search data. So if you think about it, every time someone goes to sit down and actually types into Google, they're basically articulating a problem or looking for a solution. So if you can then see what the popularity of those different search terms are, you get a really good insight into how people are thinking in a certain region regarding your problem. And the final one is looking to find and join a relevant online community. Now, probably you're already part of many online communities, and maybe some of the ones you're already a member of are ones that are going to contain the types of people that you need to talk to. But also there are ways, and we'll show you in a second, of actually going out there and searching for new specific communities to be able to join and just start talking to people. Not even kind of like pitching stuff, but just talking to people about the problems they're experiencing. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. So let me just show you some examples. So here's, I don't know if anyone out there has used either Capterra or G2. I find this is like an invaluable way to find reviews about software products and apps, and really it gives you a really good kind of overview of everything that's out there on the market to really get a good idea of your competition, but also what problems people are having. So for example, in G2, I can just let's want to find out about language learning apps. Ooh, I can't type. So I click search there, and so it's bringing me up a list of like 249 learning apps. So it's kind of super useful to see what's out there. And then if each of these ones as well, you can actually, let's say, go into Google Cloud Translation API. You can click in there and find out what people are talking about. That there are reviews, there are pricing. I'm not sure. I think this is probably free, but where there's pricing, they also show pricing. As you go back. But the reviews are, I think, are the most important part of this. And really, this software, it's a free-to-use tool, will tell you about the pros and the cons in the words of your potential customers. As I mentioned, keyword searching is also a very useful way of doing research. So I've got Google Ads open up here as well, and you can create a free account with Google Ads. And again, you can type in, let's say, language learning as a theme. And once I start doing this, you can see, okay, so what are people, this is I think this is a global thing, but you can also, so this is United Kingdom, but you could also do it for, let's say, the UAE, and actually find out what people are searching for regarding language learning in the UAE. I'm just going to do that one again, so get results. And there's a lot about, interesting, still a lot about kind of Spanish learning, English classes, learning Arabic, learning Korean. So this, again, gives you a sense of what people are searching for. And the final thing I'd like to share with you is something called High Index. And there's a couple of these searches out, so kind of platforms out here, where you can go in and actually find out about communities online that you might not have been aware of. So let's say I type in language learning, and you can see there's a whole mix of Discord and Reddit. Sometimes they have Facebook communities out there. There's again Facebook as well, that you can then join. And just join and just start talking to people and really just understanding and empathizing with them and the problems they're facing, let's say, on language learning. So that really gives you almost like a ready-made feature set if you're going to be building like a language learning model. Okay, so that was a quick deep dive into that. Let me just put me onto, sorry about this, put it onto slideshow again. Okay, so another way actually is to actually start building up your own community. So that could be on any platform, it can be anything from kind of Instagram to Reddit, where you start to actually drive and like develop this kind of online community. You could set up your own kind of subreddit talking about, I don't know, the practicalities of learning languages, for example, and start to attract people into that community. Now, the advantage of this is when it comes to actually building and selling your app, you're going to have a much lower marketing spend because essentially you've got an early adopter community already made. So it kind of lower your acquisition costs, and it also helps you to identify and build just what people want rather than what you're thinking they want. So this kind of community-driven engagement, if you have the time to build this up, this is also an excellent way to kind of research your market. Okay. So let's say you want to go and actually talk to customers. How do you actually talk to back? Rob Fitzpatrick wrote a great book called The Mom Test, which some of you might have read out there. It's a really kind of enlightening way to kind of understand how to go about asking questions of potential customers. And one of the central kind of tenets of the this book is that people will lie sometimes to avoid hurting your feelings. So if you go and ask someone, oh, what do you think of my app? People will try and sugarcoat the pill. They'll say, oh, yeah, that's good. That's kind of, yeah, I'll buy that. Instead of doing that, really what you want to be doing is focusing on problems rather than solutions. We really talk about, as we've been talking earlier, what are the issues they're facing? What has it been their past experience? Another point is actually focusing on past behaviors rather than future intentions, because hypothesizing about what might happen in the future is going to be a far less accurate measure than what people have actually done in the past. And also things like avoid leading questions and using questions to invite expansive answers rather than just yes, no. By the way, can I just ask, can everyone hear me? Am I good?
I think, yeah, the connection is a bit, the screen keeps on cutting
Okay,
out.
good.
So I think, yeah, the connection is a bit, the screen keeps on cutting in.
Am I good now? Okay, if I move the screen now, can you see the screen change there? Hold on. Okay, and so I'm just gonna. Okay. Sorry, one sec. My screen's gone a bit funny. Sorry. So 1 second, just got to my screen's broken. Okay, 1 sec. Okay, apologies, guys. Cass, do you want to take over? Sorry, my screen's just kind of crashed.
Okay, if you hand over to me, or if you stop sharing. Okay, if you hand over to me, or
okay, stop.
If you stop sharing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, stop sharing.
Right. Can we see this? Oops. Can we see this?
It works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aha.
It works.
Apologies, I don't know what happened there. Something just crashed.
Aha.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, we were talking about how to talk to customers. So yeah, maybe move to the next slide. Great. So another kind of thing that comes out of this kind of the approach bomb test is you really want to try and avoid pitching your idea when you're kind of, especially in these early days when you're trying to understand the market need and what people want. It makes a lot more sense to try and focus on learning about them, understanding their experience rather than what they think of your app. You can save the pitching of the business ideas when you're actually built an app and then you're like kind of selling it to, let's say, businesses. But for now, focus on learning rather than on pitching. Next slide. Next slide, sorry. If you're talking to people, what happens often is you'll talk to 5 different people and you'll get 5 different opinions back. So this can be quite kind of dispiriting at first, but don't despair. This is actually quite a good sign. It means you may need to focus down in on a niche. So better to have a great solution that hits like a smaller segment to start with than a kind of an average solution that might be able to touch on individual segments. So for example, if you are looking to create a fitness app, and you might have, I don't know, 3 different types of segments. You might have a fitness enthusiast, you've got a busy parent, and you've got a busy professional. They might have slightly different problems. They will have slightly different problems they're solving in the kind of the exercise space. The busy professional might be about time. The busy parent might be about cost and time. The enthusiast might be about kind of specialist fitness features. So in this case, it pays to actually focus in on one of those segments first, let's say the busy professional, because they've got the money to pay for it, and also they're kind of like time poor, so it's actually a perfect fit. And then further down the line, you can then expand the features, expand the marketing to bring the other segments in. Great. Next slide.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ben. So just
and Chris, can I pass him to Chris?
Yeah. Sorry, okay, there's a bit of a
thanks, Ben. So just yeah.
Sorry, okay, there's a bit of a yeah. Ben, could you mute for a second on your side? Perfect. So
yeah, Ben,
so one
could you mute for a second
on your side?
Yep, sure.
Perfect. So one of the guys is can everyone hear me clearly? I'm not sure if the connection's on my side, or so I'm hearing a bit of an echo. But all right, so what can everyone hear me clearly? I'm not sure if the connection on my side, or so I'm hearing a bit of an echo. There we go. Okay, thanks, Ben. It's about pivoting. So a lot of the time you start with a problem or a solution, and what you're trying to once you do a lot of research, you're trying to figure out that maybe that assumption or the hypothesis that you made was actually wrong. And sometimes it's important to actually accept the fact that you may have been wrong, and a lot of the time you will be wrong, and you need to divert your attention, divert your problem or solution towards something else. So really, one of the lessons here is don't be afraid to pivot. It happens to so many startups, so many established companies over time. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So Shopify, a lot of people obviously are aware of Shopify as one of the biggest e-commerce platforms. Originally, they actually had the assumption and the plan to build a successful snowboarding equipment business online. And during the test, they were using different third-party e-commerce softwares to test the actual selling of the equipment online. And as a result, they found that the existing software out there was difficult to use. It didn't actually meet their needs. And in addition to that, they found out that other vendors had experienced the exact same problem. So what Shopify did is they actually pivoted and refocused onto offering e-commerce SaaS to small businesses rather than selling snowboarding gear. And obviously that's a very good pivot that they've done, because now they're believe it or not, the leading e-commerce platform globally. Another more local example, which hopefully some of you have heard of, is Round Menu. I used to work there about 10 years ago. Originally, there was an assumption that people in the UAE will reserve restaurants online in advance. This was very similar to a model in abroad called OpenTable, if you've heard of it. They tested by adding a table booking widget on the restaurant pages on their website and actually facilitated those bookings manually. What they found was that in the UAE, at least, people tended to wait to the very last minute to book, and they actually preferred to call. So they'd call 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour before to be able to make that reservation. As a result of that, they decided to pivot and actually introduce online ordering functionality, which naturally, as you can imagine, led to a spike in usage, and eventually they were acquired by Careem, which is part of Korean food now. Apart from pivoting your entire business, there's also importance in understanding that solutions and problems continue to evolve. So three local examples is the entertainer. 20 years ago, the entertainer was a simple buy one, get one free printed voucher book. They adapted to the market, they evolved and introduced a mobile solution, which is the mobile application. And then now they continue to evolve and work with businesses on a B2B basis for their loyalty programs. Another example is Bayzat. So Bayzat was one of the first online insurance, health insurance comparisons for individuals. That was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And since then, they've actually evolved to be an entire suite of HR solutions across benefits, payroll, employee management, employee perks, and much, much more. And now they've got a very robust business model, which is actually profitable. The third example, I'm sure everyone here knows, is Zomato. So I'm going to talk specifically about Zomato UAE. Originally, they were restaurant discovery and review sites. I think one of the most highly trafficked areas, sites in the UAE. What they did was they actually evolved and introduced food delivery service because of the demand in the market, because that was missing in the market. And eventually they got acquired by Talabat. That's Zomato UAE got acquired by Talabat. Great, thanks.
Right, so prioritizing your research. With your app canvas, there's going to be a lot of assumptions to test. And even though you may have general buckets in terms of where to start, there's still going to be a whole deluge of things that you need to test to make sure that your business idea will work and customers will want your app. So we set up a really simple framework that makes it important, that prioritizes the most important assumptions, because again, not all assumptions are created equal. Some assumptions will not have a big impact on your business. Whether a customer prefers a blue button versus a red button is not as important as whether a customer is actually interested in buying a product that you have. Let's say if you've got an online marketplace, because one thing could be the end of your company and the other is just a UX or user interface problem that can be solved later on. Okay. So in terms of the axes that we have the unimportant things to solve and the unimportant. So things that you don't have to solve right away, or things that won't kind of change or impact your business if they're proved wrong. And then the other axis is whether you already have evidence of this or not enough evidence of it. So that when you don't have a lot of evidence, that's probably when you want to go out and do more research, rather than going and reinventing the wheel where you've already got enough research available. So if we imagine this kind of top quadrant where there are important assumptions to find out and we don't have a lot of evidence, that's usually where we're going to get started on. Okay. And as an exercise, we're going to kick off some of this assumption testing. Now, I think we've got a Miro board ready. If someone could just post that in the chat. Yep,
I'll post that now. One sec. So if we post it in here, everyone see this now. So I'm just going to share my screen so we can see the Miro board. Someone else is sharing over there.
Let me stop sharing. Okay.
Great. Cool. So I'll just quickly share my screen so you can see the Miro board here. So, and hopefully we'll see some people joining the board now. There's probably going to be quite a few of you. What we have here on the screen, can everyone see my screen there? Yes, is an app business canvas. So we've got lots of these boards on the screen. So as people join, if they would, in a minute, I'll ask you to find a business canvas and you can then use that business canvas. I just want to show people as they're doing that how to create a post-it note. So what we're going to do is put some post-it notes onto the business canvas. So we click down here. The third one down is the post-it note. So we click that. And so I think in a second, when people have joined the board, I would like people to find an empty business canvas board and then to click on the sticky note on the side there, the third one down, and create a sticky note. Great. And then with these sticky notes, you can, if you click into them, you can, here is my formula. So you can just type into there and then you can kind of resize them in the corner. So you can put the problems here. And what I'd like you to do in a minute, actually, I'll wait for everyone to get onto the boards first, just to see that people have got the boards. There is a little space at the top where you can put your team name. So let's put team name. Yeah. And then your app idea. So you can type in and put your app idea. So I'll just wait for everyone to get onto the boards. So I can see there's one person up here. Has everyone managed to get onto the Miro boards? Because I can just see one person at the moment. Or two people.
Some may be joining from mobile, so
Okay.
if you are, then there is a Miro app that you can download, but that requires a little bit of onboarding for that. But let's see how we go.
We'll stick with the people that have desktop access. Just for the future sessions, when we start looking at the design sessions, if you guys apply, we'll be running a lot of those on Miro, so we'll be doing it more from a desktop perspective. But for today, yes, just kind of follow along. Great. So I can see people are starting to post, and what we'd like you to do is we'll give you kind of 10 minutes to start putting some of your assumptions on the board. So for example, if I was looking at, I don't know, a kind of a language learning app, I would want to say, okay, put some details about what the problem to be solved. So I don't know. So it could be around people don't have time to spend hours on apps learning languages, for example. And maybe talk a bit about my target audience. So maybe busy professionals in UAE. So just start filling this out. We'll give you 10 minutes to, and if you, this is just like, we're not going to holding you to this. This is more just to get like an idea of how to use this business canvas, this app business canvas. And then after 10 minutes, we'll have another quick exercise to do before kind of wrapping up today.
We could try reducing some of the templates because I think someone is struggling to log in, and although the website's working, it may be because there's a lot of templates on the screen. So maybe if we get rid of the bottom 2-3 rows,
okay,
that might speed it up.
So there's no one's on them at the moment.
Might be one person right down at the bottom that's doing, yeah. So anything with a post-it, don't
yeah. God, there's a lot of boards here.
We were expecting a lot of people, so always got the bases covered.
So I'm not deleting anyone here. Deleting one here. Okay, so it started freeing up a little bit of space. And if anyone has any questions while they're doing that or any issues, then just post it on the chat and we can answer them. Okay, so that should probably bring it up a little bit. And yes, and I think for this stage as well, we probably want to focus more on the kind of the first 8 quadrants rather than, you don't need to go into too much detail about your revenue models at this point. So you just want to focus more on the marketplace and the and on the problems to be solved and the solution. And it's good. We're seeing a lot of activity here. And it's useful also to get a feel for the Miro board as well, because what we're going to ask you to do if you apply to the competition, it would be great just to set yourself up a free Miro account, because then we can then share a lot of templates with you. And as I say, the future sessions we're going to be running through using a Miro board to do kind of brainstorming, using some of the canvases, and even some of the design flows we can use Miro for. Also, once we're done in this session as well, feel free to kind of copy your board. I'll show you at the end how you can export it out as a PDF, or we'll leave you access with this board as well. So if you decide to open your own Miro account, or once you've opened your own Miro account, you can just copy the board and put it onto your own Miro.
You can also right-click if you want to download a PDF of your canvas directly to your laptop.
Yes. We'll show you at the end as well, but there's a way of kind of, like you say, right, you click on here and there's a way to export it as a PDF or export it as image. Right. I hope people are finding this easy to do. I can see there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of activity going there. It's really good. Really good. So we've got a couple minutes left, and then we'll have a quick chat to see like kind of how people are finding this, and maybe if I could get a volunteer in a minute, we'll have a quick look at one of the boards. Great, 30 seconds left. Now, some people are actually writing on the indirectly, and that's great. Cool. Okay, we'll stop for now. And I'll let people just finish their last post-it. Go again, another 10 seconds. Obviously, you can continue after this session as well if you want, if it's useful to kind of carry on using these templates for your board. I was wondering if it would be okay for if I could zoom into one of these ones. Let's say this person that's putting in orange. Would you be okay for me to use yours as an example? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit here, just to kind of so people can see what we're doing here, and especially for those people on the mobile phone as well. So in putting in different assumptions around their business idea. So in this one here, this is a problem about paying parking tickets, because you always get fines. Really, this is around kind of business, busy professionals and working people. And looking in at the kind of the ideal customer persona, we've got a number of actually quite distinct groups there. So everything from C-level executives to the elderly, forgetful people, I guess that would be a good segment. And then as we move to the solution, we've got so it's an app that works in hand with RTA to pay my parking and to remind me where I can park. Fantastic. Very succinct. I like that. Allows you to reserve a parking spot before you arrive. And looking at the current competition and solutions, there is so currently you can use a text message to pay, or manually set up. And regarding the that's for the payment side, and for the reminder side, you can manually set a phone timer, which I guess is not fail safe, and you have to remember to do that when you leave your car. And they've also mentioned the RTA app, and there's some competitors here, including the Majid Al Futtaim app and the Dubai Mall parking app. But those are obviously kind of very specific to those parking locations. Great. So what we're looking at here is a kind of a set of quite clearly defined assumptions. And what I'd like you guys to do next, as you can see down the bottom here, this assumptions priority matrix. And just as we went through, what you want to do is to look at your current assumptions you've got there, and which of these do you have most confidence in, and which of these would you say are most important for the success of your app business. So what I'd like you to do for the next 5 minutes, and you can either kind of copy these, or you can just drag these across and put them onto your assumptions matrix to say, okay, this is a very important one and I've got a lot of evidence, or this is very important, I don't have much evidence. You can be, I mean, and when we talk about evidence, is whether you've talked to people, whether you've done any research on it. So for the next 5 minutes, could you take your assumptions and drop them into the priority matrix? I'll just wait for people are probably thinking, but if you have any questions, then just post them up onto the chat as well. Yes, that's right. So someone put on the chat there. So for example, an assumption here would be that people are willing to pay for an app to help them avoid fines. Exactly that. So an assumption might be that actually that the C-level executives are going to be a group you can target. So whether you've got any evidence for that, and also how important would you say that group is targeting is for the success of your app. This is just a very quick exercise. So we will be obviously we're providing you with these templates after the session, so you can spend more time on it. This is more just to get a feel for identifying kind of parts of your business at Canvas, and then assessing how much evidence you have for them and how important they are.
These canvases are designed for you to look at them over and over again over time, because your assumptions will change as you solve certain assumptions. New ones will become available to you as you get more information and more learning from talking to customers, from building product to putting it out there. So your assumptions will be continuously updated as you progress.
Yeah.
I've got someone asking just to explain assumptions again.
Yeah.
So go on, Ben, if you want to.
Yeah. So now we're doing this quite quickly. So actually, I think in an ideal world, we'll maybe take a bit more time to kind of dig into these. But let's say one of your I don't know, maybe sorry for whoever's bored, I'm just picking on here. Okay, so an assumption would be, as I just mentioned, actually, okay, one of your target audience is a C-level executive. Okay, so there's an assumption there that C-level executives, A, have the problem that you're looking to solve, and B, are willing to buy this app if you were making it available. Another assumption might be that this is actually a problem. Okay, so this might be a problem for you, but is this something that's then generalized to other people? Are people kind of forgetting that they parked in a certain spot and then getting fines because of that?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Is like, can this generalize? So that's an assumption. Another assumption might be that that your key competitors are just these two here. So maybe you're kind of underestimating the kind of competition in the market. So that's another assumption. There's an assumption that there are two leading players in the market. Another assumption might be that this solution, if you have an app in hand that reminds you where to park and allows you to reserve a parking before you arrive, you're going to solve this problem of having parking fines.
Exactly. So take for example the persona of the C-level executive. Is a C-level executive, do they mind paying a fine for parking if they're earning so much money? They may pay that money for convenience for parking in a place they're not meant to, but because it's close to where they're having their meeting or their lunch. So if I'm earning $3 million a year, do I care about parking fines? Again, that's an assumption. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't want to get fined. But if it's a money penalty, then maybe I don't care because I've got so much money, it doesn't matter. That's an assumption.
Cool. So I'm just going to sort of going to finish the time there because we're going to have to just wrap up in a sec. But actually, so this is a good example here. So we've got the problem to be solved here is projects lack differentiation from each other in engagement strategies. So customers need a more intuitive way to learn and engage with projects. Sorry, and the solution is focusing on off-plan properties from reputable developers to create an ecosystem where buyers of all skill levels can learn, grow, and invest. So this is interesting. So it's kind of building out this community approach to investing in property. And I think it's kind of, they mention things like fractional ownership as like a kind of a current solution there. So as we move down, we can see that there's a number of different assumptions they're making here. So firstly, that people feel safer investing using communities, that actually buyers trust blockchain enough to invest their money in a kind of a fractional ownership or kind of token-based economy. And these are both important things because they're kind of central to the solution they're looking to build. And then other examples are where it's maybe slightly less important, but again, they don't have much evidence, is that people are okay paying a small maintenance fee as a subscription. So that if that wasn't true, it wouldn't necessarily stop it wouldn't be a blocker to the whole proposition. But again, it's something that's relatively important because it's obviously central to their commercial model. And then for some places where they have evidence, but it's kind of, and it's also important, they know that deposits are currently a barrier of entry to keep low income owners out of partnership. And they also know, and they've got evidence that young people fear that they won't be able to afford property because there's a lot of kind of talk and in the forums, but also in the kind of media around that. So this is giving you an example of like how you can take elements of your business canvas and then assess how much evidence you have for them and how important these elements are to the success of your business. Okay, I think what we're going to do now is to wrap up this this section of the exercise. I hope this was a nice taster of some of the stuff we're going to be doing, but also an introduction to the app business canvas. And what we would like you to do, obviously, if you're looking to take part in this course, and we'll provide, you can take this template here. So I'll just quickly show you. You can, if you want to export this, you can right-click on here and click Export as PDF, and that will then allow you just to download this version of the template. We'll also be providing fresh templates. We can send those out, and I can drop in a couple of PDFs into the chat in a minute. That you can then download that yourselves. So I'm just going to stop sharing here and then go back to the Safari one second. Sorry, stop sharing.
So I think there's some questions that have been answered. It might be worth going through those now while we're just switching screens. Chris, I think you were answering some of the ones that were in the QA section.
Yes, so there was two. One I've already answered. It was basically regarding at what point is it, what point can you make the decision to turn an idea or whatever you have into an actual startup? So one of the things is all about continuously validating with customers, continuously validating your research, and the research will show you whether or not you're going in the right direction. Sometimes your initial hypothesis or assumption might be right or it might be wrong, and that will divert your idea slightly and tweak it over time. And I guess for me at least, one of the main things in terms of making a decision to turn something into a business is, can it be commercialized? Is there something that people are willing to pay for? Because in the long run, that's you need to have a sustainable, profitable business. So that's what my number one sort of validating signal. Skander, I'm sorry, I actually replied to you, but I'll answer the question live. So in terms of turning your app into to introduce in-app purchases, it depends on the traction and the business model. If it's B2C or if it's B2B, you need to have enough traction to be able to show as much value as possible that your users are ready to purchase or pay for something within the application. The first step is getting them to actually download the application, to use it, to continue using it, so you don't have a high churn rate, so people leaving the application. And then once you do that, you can see that, okay, now I can introduce that $5, $10, whatever it is, in-app purchase.
Yeah. You got any other questions in the chat?
I think that was the last one.
Okay, great.
Oh, no, was there? There's another one. Can you give some hints on how to prepare a go-to-market strategy? Well, we have a session just for that. Yeah.
Yes, we'll be covering that a bit further down into the modules. Yes. In terms of there's kind of a number of different elements to the go-to-market, including things like which channels you're going to be using to sell your product on, looking at potential partnerships to accelerate your app into the marketplace. We could probably actually, I mean, I think between now and that first module, we can provide more resources, some kind of like self-learn stuff to help you guys as well, and point you to kind of useful resources that you can use as you're putting together your app canvas. Great. So I think to finish off, in terms of homework, ideally what we'd like before the next module, if you then sign up, is to complete at least the first 8 sections of the canvas. I can see that some of you are already thinking about kind of route to market or go to market plan and the kind of revenue models, etc. So if you want to start filling those out as well, great. But as long as you get these first sections of the canvas, you've got thinking about your market and your solution. We'd also like you to go out and talk to at least 10 potential customers if you haven't already done so. If you already have done so, go and talk to another 10. Really start socializing your idea and some of the problems that you think people are facing, and also as a kind of a research to kind of really validate your assumptions. And also, if you could create at least 1, ideally up to 3 customer personas as well. So that's the kind of the description of your customer with their traits, the things that are important to them, the pain points they face. And also, just underlining all this is just keep researching your assumptions. So using the matrix there to kind of identify which are the priority ones. You can then go online, view research, reviews and forums, and just start to get evidence for the potential success of your app. Great. So if anyone, does anyone have any final questions before we leave?
How can they register? Is there like a QR code or?
Ah, yes, sorry. Sorry, yes. Very good point. So, essentially, this is the point at which you can then register your interest for the competition. So, we've got the QR code here on the left-hand side. So scan that and then start your application to join the competition. Also, if you'd like to, on the right-hand side, we've also got a QR code for scanning for session feedback as well. So if you want to kind of feedback on today's session, anything, things you liked, anything that you would like to see in future sessions, just scan that and then you can give your feedback. But yeah, really impress upon you to register your interest for the competition. I can see there's some really good ideas out there from the stuff you're putting on the boards. So it'd be great to see you as part of this App Olympics competition.
Right.
Right. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Yeah, hope to see you guys soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Until next time, happy learning.